Has anybody seen any good mugshots lately? I think that this is going to go down in history as the most famous mugshot in the entire world, in the history of planet Earth. This mugshot, let's bring it up on the screen to take a look at it. There were so many fake mugshots that were circulating on X, formerly known as Twitter, the night that Trump surrendered to Fulton County Jail. And many of them were very good. But when this one came out and it was official, I was like, man, oh man, man, oh man. Since this mugshot was released, President Trump has raised over $7.1 million. $7.1 million. He raised $4 million on Friday alone, which is a record. This according to Politico. Let me read this from Politico. Donald Trump has turned his Georgia mugshot into a record-breaking fundraising haul. The former president has raised $7.1 million, and this was from the 26th, this article, by the way, has raised $7.1 million since he was booked at an Atlanta jail Thursday evening. According to figures provided first to Politico by his campaign, on Friday alone, Trump raised $4.18 million, making it the single highest 24-hour period of his campaign to date. The campaign's fundraising has been powered by merchandise it has been selling through its online store. After Trump was taken into custody, the campaign began selling shirts, posters, bumper stickers, and beverage coolers bearing Trump's scowling mugshot. The items bear the tagline, "Never Surrender," and range in price from $12 to $34. I think we can all agree that it's completely genius for Trump to have a merchandise line based on this. He also returned, and you have to wonder if this fundraising haul was based partially on what you are seeing on the screen right now. This is President Trump's triumphant return to X, formerly known as Twitter. This really is a triumphant return. President Trump was banned from Twitter under Jack Dorsey following January 6th, or on January 6th or January 7th. He was reinstated by Elon Musk, but he never tweeted. He never returned. He was simply allowed to return, but he claimed that he wanted to be exclusive to Truth Social. I suspect that it's because he has contractual obligations to Truth Social and not because he has anything against coming back to X. But he returns to X with the following post. It reads, it's his mugshot, of course. And it reads, mugshot, August 24th, 2023, election interference, never surrender, DonaldJTrump.com. And the caption is DonaldJTrump.com. Now, this post on X has been viewed 249 million times. 249 million pairs of eyeballs have seen this post. So I think we've solved the mystery of why President Trump has grossed this amount in fundraising, because, and I'm interested to know if you feel the same way, I didn't know exactly what to expect when President Trump, when we anticipated that President Trump would have his mugshot taken in Fulton County, Georgia. I thought, well, that's an indignity. I thought that's humiliating. There's no reason that they need a mugshot. Everyone in the world knows what Donald Trump looks like. He's arguably the most famous person on earth. The only reason to do that is because the left, who controls the law enforcement apparatus, is weaponizing that to target him, to try to humiliate him and take him down. And they're trying to treat him like a common criminal, hoping that he will break, hoping that he will recant the claims that he made about the 2020 presidential election being stolen. And I was glad in Manhattan and during these other indictments when President Trump didn't have a mugshot. Yet, when this mugshot was released, my feelings were not what I expected them to be. This mugshot, let's just say, backfired on the left. Tremendously, exponentially backfired on the left, because as soon as I saw this, I thought, okay, that was what was missing from the GOP debate. That face, that scowl, those pairs of eyes, that defiance, the unwillingness to back down, even when your political enemies are trying to crush you using the power of the U.S. government. I mean, if you don't feel somewhat invigorated by that, Joel Pollack posted this on X. Let me read you this. He said, before, it felt like the mugshot would be the worst thing they could do, the lowest indignity. Now that they've done it, there's almost a sense of excitement. Like they've taken their best shot and the guy is still standing. The fear is gone, replaced by the thrill of the fight. Joel is exactly right. That is exactly how I feel. He encapsulated it perfectly. And I compare it to how I felt after the debate just the day before. Wednesday night's GOP debate in Milwaukee. Afterward, I felt annoyed. I felt bored. I felt demoralized. Like, oh my gosh, all of these losers up on the stage. None of them gets it. None of them can save the country. Like, nobody wins here. I felt annoyed and demoralized. And after this mugshot, I feel reinvigorated. And not, by the way, because I'm some diehard loyalist on the Trump train. Not at all. I think President Trump handled COVID the worst he could possibly have handled it during his fourth year of his presidency. And I can't get past that. That's not something I can brush under the rug. That's not something that I can dismiss. That's something that we are feeling the harmful repercussions of to this day that he could have prevented as president of the United States. And I can't just ignore that. So it's not because I'm some diehard loyalist to President Trump. It's because when we see that mugshot of President Trump, it's a visual representation that causes a visceral reaction in our guts because we know that they want to do that to us. We know that just like in 2015, when President Trump stood before the American people, not as a politician, but just as a rich guy and said, listen, I've been in this elitist club. I know that they cheat and I know they're deliberately screwing you over. So now I'm going to stand in the line of fire, in their line of fire on your behalf and stand up for you. And so many Americans for the first time were like, yes, I feel seen. I have a champion, someone who's willing to take the punches to stand up for me. That's how this mugshot, that's the feelings that are evoked by this mugshot. Once again, President Trump is standing in this line of fire that these government officials, these radical leftists, these Marxists, these evil people in charge of our government actually want to come after us. And yet President Trump's face is the one in that mugshot because he's standing between those evil government officials and us. And those are the 2015 feelings all over again. Now, the Fulton County Jail, by the way, that the left is celebrating the fact that President Trump surrendered to this jail. The Fulton County Jail was actually in the crosshairs of the left. They were criticizing the Fulton County Jail not too long ago, and we're going to talk about why in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about American Hartford Gold. Is it only me, or do you also feel that the future is more insecure and uncertain than it used to be? At every turn, we are paying more, and yet we're getting less because why? Well, we're facing record high inflation thanks to the Biden administration, soaring interest rates, and a looming recession seems to be on the horizon. It's threatening to our businesses, our jobs, and our retirement funds. We even have the Fed chair, Powell, warning us to brace for more pain. I don't know about you. I don't like to hear that. Fortunately, there is a way to secure your hard-earned nest egg, even in the face of such uncertainty. You can do what I did. You can call the only precious metals dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They make it simple and easy to protect your savings, your retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. With one short phone call, they can have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside your IRA or 401k. And if you call them right now, they'll give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. So don't wait. Call them right now. Call 866-781-7499. That's 866-781-7499. Or text Liz to 65532. Again, the phone number is 866-781-7499. Or text Liz to 65532. Okay, the Fulton County Jail, which the left was actively celebrating the fact that President Trump surrendered at this jail. Just a couple months ago, the left had this in their crosshairs as a violator of civil rights because 3 inmates, this is according to justthenews.com, 3 inmates in the month of August were found unresponsive in cells in the Fulton County Jail before being pronounced dead. That's significant. This is what Just the News reports. Before liberals cheered Donald Trump's booking at the Fulton County Jail this month, they were decrying the facility's deplorable conditions that have led to numerous deaths and an ongoing federal civil rights investigation. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office in Atlanta announced last week that a 66-year-old inmate named Alexander Hawkins was found unresponsive in a medical unit cell before being pronounced dead. Medical personnel were unsuccessful at attempts to revive Hawkins, and he died, the sheriff's department said. It was the 3rd death this month in the jail and the 7th since the beginning of the year, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. 2 other inmates who passed away this month include Christopher Smith and Monte Stinson. Smith was found unresponsive in a medical unit cell on August 10th and passed away at a hospital on August 11th. Stinson was also found unresponsive in his cell on July 31st at around 11:45 p.m. According to a release from the sheriff's department, he was found with no obvious signs of injury. Last month, the U.S. Department of Justice launched a civil rights investigation into the conditions of the jail to determine if any rights of prisoners were being violated. The DOJ said there were credible allegations that, quote, Fulton County Jail is structurally unsafe, that prevalent violence has resulted in serious injuries and homicides, and that officers are being prosecuted for using excessive force. Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a statement, people in prisons and jails are entitled to basic protections of their civil rights. We launched this investigation into the Fulton County Jail based on serious allegations of unsafe, unsanitary living conditions at the jail, excessive force and violence within the jail, discrimination against incarcerated individuals with mental health issues, and failure to provide adequate medical care to incarcerated individuals. During this comprehensive review of the conditions of confinement at the Fulton County Jail, the Justice Department will determine whether systemic violations of federal laws exist, and if so, how to correct them. The conditions and overcrowding at this jail have long been notorious, generating concerns among liberal civil rights activists that reached a crescendo just weeks before Trump's booking on Thursday. So the point of all of this is that the left essentially was using Fulton County Jail as an example of why we should, quote unquote, abolish prisons, until Fulton County Jail became the place where Jenna Ellis and John Eastman and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, and eventually culminating in Donald Trump surrendering. As soon as these prominent Republican figures surrendered to this jail, suddenly the deplorable conditions at this jail, the possible civil rights violations, the violence, the excessive force, the unsanitary conditions, the lack of safety, suddenly that became funny. It became something that the left enjoyed, because the left actually wants two tiers of justice. They want justice, and I say justice, putting it in quotation marks. They want one version of quote unquote justice for leftists, and they want another version of quote unquote justice for Republicans. They want us to be persecuted, and they want leftists not to have any repercussions for any actions, whether it's racism, whether it's violence, whether it's looting, whether it's arson, whatever it may be. And Fulton County Jail is a perfect example of that. So the prosecutor in this whole shebang, Fani Willis, remember that her charges against all of these people, it's not just Donald Trump. It's Jenna Ellis, it's Sidney Powell, it's Rudy Giuliani, it's John Eastman, it's Donald Trump, and Mark Meadows and others. The premise of this indictment is an indictment of free speech. What this group of people, President Trump and his lawyers and his presidential staff, were doing after the 2020 election were trying to figure out the best way to use our system of government in order to pursue recourse for the grievance of the 2020 election, which we have a constitutional right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And his lawyers were giving him advice on the best way to do this, what avenues he had, what opportunities he could take to actually use the power of the government to address this grievance that he believed happened, that many of us believed happened. And Fani Willis indicted all of these people on the basis that you're not allowed to question the outcome of an election, that's racketeering, that you're not allowed to make phone calls to other elected officials about election procedures, that's somehow pressuring these elected officials, whether it's in Georgia, whether it's in other states, to create or produce fraudulent ballots. I mean, it's so bananas. We talked about it. We did a breakdown of the actual charges on an episode early last week. If you haven't listened to that, go back and take a listen to that. But the essence of this is that President Trump tweeted, turn on the television and watch this hearing and make sure that you take part in our election process. And he tweeted something about the election being stolen. And those tweets are the basis for these indictments. It's just his opinion, his free speech, his righteous indignation that what happened during the 2020 election happened during the 2020 election. Well, obviously, you and I can sit here and talk about how wrong that is, talk about how unjust that is, talk about what a threat to our entire constitutional order that is, that we're not a free country if we don't have free speech, and all of that is true. But what's ironic is that Fani Willis, the prosecutor bringing these charges against President Trump, has committed all of these offenses herself. This is a thread on X from Benny Johnson. We're going to read that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about Provia. Are you one of the millions of American women and men of any age dealing with premature hair thinning or hair loss? Or maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it just runs in the family. Finally, there's a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects, without the unwanted chemicals or the unpleasant smells. Thanks to our friends that developed Genucel Skincare, Provia uses a safe and natural ingredient called Procapil to effectively target the three main causes of premature hair thinning and loss by supporting healthy scalp circulation, the delivery of nourishing nutrients, and healthy hair follicle anchoring to your scalp. Provia guarantees more hair on your head than in the shower or on your comb. It's effective for men and women of any age. It's safe on color, treated, styled hair. It really is that easy. And right now, new customers can save 50% off Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/Liz. Every package includes a full 30-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus Provia 30 super concentrate for faster and more noticeable results. Provia works, guaranteed, or 100% of your money back. See results for yourself right now. Don't wait. Go to proviahair.com/Liz. That's proviahair.com/Liz. So Benny Johnson posted a thread on X exposing Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. This is what he said. Fani Willis regularly questioned election results and used her office to push unfounded election conspiracies. He posted a screenshot of what looks to be a Facebook status from November 4th of 2020. It says, Fani Willis is feeling annoyed. She posted, Georgia could determine who is our next president. A team of lawyers needs to watch them count every single vote. They can start in Fulton, where we are having water leaks. What ballots are they throwing out? Georgia, let's give an honest accounting, no stunts. Okay, so how is this materially different, Fani Willis, from what President Trump did? Asking if there was election integrity and how it was enforced. Of course, there's no material difference. Benny Johnson goes on to say, a dive into Fani Willis's social media proves that she's a hardened radical activist, not an unbiased attorney. Fani's pages are littered with BLM propaganda and deep partisan adherence to left-wing ideology. She openly worships Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. There's a picture of Fani Willis with a Black Lives Matter activist. You can also see this next picture. He says, Fulton County DA Fani Willis has blatantly and quite illegally used her office for partisan political activity. Imagine thinking you'll get quote-unquote justice from a person with a proud Democrat mug displayed prominently in their public office. You can see this on Fani Willis's desk. Benny Johnson then goes, as a public official, Fani Willis regularly and consistently questioned Georgia's election procedures and pushed unfounded election conspiracy theories on her public social media profile. Fani is indicting Trump for the exact same thing. Here's a list of examples. He then shows a screenshot of a Yahoo article that says absentee ballot counting in Georgia's most populous county delayed 4 hours after a water pipe burst. And Fani Willis captions this and says, why Fulton? Now, the reason she says why Fulton is because Fulton County was a swing district. It's one of the most important counties electorally for the outcome of the election for the entire country. So why Fulton is an insinuation, a very obvious insinuation that she thinks that absentee ballot counting in Georgia's most populous county delayed 4 hours after a water pipe burst is some kind of conspiracy to rig the election. This is no different than the questions that President Trump has posed, except in this case, Fani Willis's allegations are false, and President Trump's allegations that funny business, to put it nicely, happened in 2020 are true. Benny Johnson goes on to say, in the days following the 2018 midterms, Fani Willis expressed concerns about the election not being properly run by implying all votes weren't counted. In a Facebook post, she wrote, okay, I'm watching FGTV and Marvin Arrington Jr. request all ballots in Fulton County be counted again to make sure all votes counted. The other commissioners sat silent. No other commissioner seconded his motion. Ask yourself why. You all better start paying attention to what is really going on instead of reality TV and pay attention to reality. So what is the insinuation here? Why would she post something like that? The only reason she would post something like that is if she was insinuating that the election was run improperly or that ballots that should have been counted weren't being counted. Benny goes on to say, hours after the last ballots in the 2018 midterms were cast, Fani Willis openly boasts about the power Georgia's Secretary of State has to control elections. And then she says, how many of you will vote in a December runoff? Secretary of State will definitely be on the ballot. That person controls election. I wonder if we will realize that is an important role. Well, of course it is. Of course it is. And it goes on and on. On and on. Fani Willis also, if you scroll down just a little bit further past this electoral map scribbled out, Benny Johnson says, in a subsequent Facebook post, Fani Willis agrees with a racially motivated commenter that, quote, only white folk are voting in the election by expressing skepticism in voting data by replying, they're at like 116%. I'm so annoyed. Where are we? As you can see, Fani Willis well within her right, is questioning election procedures and how those election procedures were administered and whether the administration of those election procedures impacted the vote count and ultimately the outcome of various elections. She's perfectly allowed to do that. She's certainly allowed to do that. It's not only her right to free speech, she's actually allowed to petition the government for a redress of these grievances if she has proof that something fishy happened. But wait a second. If Fani Willis has a right to do this, then so does Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump is being indicted and thrown in jail, which he was, for questioning election procedures and the outcome of an election in the same way that Fani Willis did, then why is he being indicted and she isn't? Here's the thing. Here's what Republicans don't understand or refuse to understand, because Republicans are generally nice people and kind people and good faith people. They believe the best about others. The only way to stop these political prosecutions, the only way to prevent Democrats from weaponizing law enforcement and the power of government, local and federal, against their political opponents, is for Republicans to respond in kind. The only way, and I know some people are going to say, well, we shouldn't stoop to their level. The only way that we stop this from becoming the norm is if conservative and Republican district attorneys in localities and states across the country that have friendly jury pools, meaning you don't want to do this in New York, you don't want to do this in big cities in California where a jury's not going to actually look at the law, they're just going to be biased towards Democrats. The only way that Democrats stop political prosecutions of Republicans is if Republican and conservative DAs across the country start indicting Hillary Clinton, start indicting James Comey, start indicting Jim Clapper, start indicting Hunter Biden, start indicting Joe Biden, and relentlessly pursue those prosecutions until the left says, okay, we're not going to do that to you, because the difference, of course, is that when it comes to the Democrats, these aren't weaponized prosecutions. Hillary Clinton deserves to be prosecuted. She violated laws. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden deserve to be prosecuted because they violated laws that put the national security of the United States at risk. James Comey was not only negligent, he was part of a plot involving the media and the FBI and the deep state to try to take out President Trump because James Comey didn't like President Trump. These people actually deserve to be in prison, whereas Donald Trump and Jenna Ellis and John Eastman and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell do not. Until and unless Republicans prosecute Democrats at the local level, we know Congress isn't going to do it, then this political prosecution of Republicans is going to continue. There are 14 U.S. cities, 14 big U.S. cities who are part of a pact to eliminate meat, air travel, and private vehicles by the year 2030. You may not have heard of this before. It seems to be quite a big deal to me. We're going to be talking about this in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about the morning kick. Guys, you know Chuck Norris. He's an action star. He's a U.S. military veteran. He's also a family man, and he is big on health. But get this. He says he feels better at age 83 than he has in years. And it's from making one change to his diet. What he realized is that after decades of trying every supplement out there, most of them did nothing for his health. So he put them all together in a daily drink he calls the Morning Kick. It's a very apropos name, I think we can all agree. The Morning Kick combines all 10 of Chuck Norris's favorite supplements into one daily drink. It's got probiotics that help you lose weight. It's got prebiotics for digestion. It's got superfoods for all those muscles and joints, and several of the most powerful anti-aging supplements on earth. If you want to try it for yourself, and I highly recommend that you do, head over to mymorningkick.com/Liz. That's mymorningkick.com/Liz. I want to bring this up. This is from the Federalist, written by, this report, I should say, came from Avita Duffy Alfonso at the Federalist. And she writes, 14 major American cities are part of a globalist climate organization known as the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, which has a, quote, ambitious targets by the year 2013 of 0 kilograms of meat consumption, 0 kilograms of dairy consumption, 3 new clothing items per person per year, 0 private vehicles owned, and 1 short-haul return flight, less than 1,500 kilometers, every 3 years per person. C40's dystopian goals can be found in its The Future of Urban Consumption at the 1.5% Celsius World Report, which was published in 2019 and reportedly re-emphasized in 2023. The organization is headed and largely funded by Democrat billionaire Michael Bloomberg. Nearly 100 cities, according to the Federalist, across the world make up the organization, and its American members include, I hope that you don't live in these cities, Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. Now, I got to tell you, the ones that really disappointed me, Miami, really, and Florida. And of course, we've known that the big cities in Texas, especially Austin and Houston, were turning blue. But Houston, really? Houston and Miami shocked me. The Federalist writes, media coverage of C40 cities' goals have been relatively sparse. The few media personalities and news outlets who have discussed it have been heavily attacked by the corporate fact checkers. In a quote-unquote fact check aimed at conservative commentator Glenn Beck, AFP fact check claimed that the banning of meat and dairy and limits on air travel and clothing consumption were actually not policy recommendations. AFP, this is hilarious because I see this all the time in fact checks I get on my stuff. AFP quotes a paragraph from the original The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5 degrees Celsius World Report, which reads, quote, this report does not advocate for the wholesale adoption of these more ambitious targets in C40 cities. Rather, they are included to provide a set of reference points that cities and other actors can reflect on when considering different emission reduction alternatives and long-term urban visions. That absolutely cracked me up because, of course, it's just their defense mechanism to say, oh, we're not trying to ban this. We don't want to take away your car and your ability to fly to visit your family. We don't want you to never eat red meat again. We don't want you to get only 3 new pairs of socks every year. This is just our ambitious vision. Right. This is what the Federalist writes. This paragraph, likely included in the report as a liability in the case of pushback, seems to directly contradict the meaning of target, which in this context can be defined as a desired goal. The target of eliminating meat and dairy and private vehicles by 2013 is, quote, based on a future vision of resource-efficient production and extensive changes in consumer choices. This, according to the report. These goals are something, the Federalist writes, its authors clearly hope to bring about. If these were not their goals, they would not have labeled them as ambitious targets. The fact checkers' insistence that C40 cities explicitly stated climate goals are somehow insincere is even more unconvincing given that we are watching them start to unfold right now. This year, in lockstep with C40 cities' 2030 aims, New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced that the city will place caps on the amount of meat and dairy served by city institutions, such as schools and prisons. Meanwhile, the UK has banned the sale of new gas-powered vehicles after 2030, and France has banned short-haul flights to, quote, cut carbon emissions. Well. 14 U.S. cities have signed on to this pact. This pact intended to eliminate meat and dairy and private vehicles and air travel and clothing consumption. Now, please note, fact checkers, as you are scrolling through, as you are scanning through my words, they say intended to eliminate. I'm not saying ban. It seems to me that that's the strategy that the left prefers. They prefer to use the power of government to enforce things like this. That's my speculation, my educated guess. I remain unconvinced that they're simply trying to stage a change of heart and mind in all of us. I remain unconvinced that they will stand aside and say, government, it's not your role to tell people what they're supposed to eat. It's not your role to prevent people from buying new shoes if they need new shoes. I remain unconvinced that they will not try to use government to ban these things, but they certainly want to eliminate these things. And there are many ways that these things could be eliminated without the power of government, such as ESG. What if this becomes part of ESG and big corporations like BlackRock and Bank of America, financial institutions on which businesses rely? What if this becomes part of ESG scores and businesses are forced to adhere to this? What if smaller businesses, if they don't embrace these goals the way that they've embraced Black Lives Matter, the way that they've embraced the trans ideology, what if they refuse to embrace these goals? Will they be sidelined from the market? The answer to that is, of course, yes, because the left isn't stupid. They both use the power of government when they can get away with it, and they've also created this apparatus of control outside of government, these global elitists, and it's almost as effective as the power of government in impacting our lives and our behavior. So you can quibble with the word ban, you can quibble with the word eliminate. The point is, the vision that the left has for our country, what the left wants for you and your family, is they want you to be able to buy 3 pairs of underwear a year, and that's all. No new winter coat, no back to school clothing, no new jeans. When your child, your little boy outgrows his summer clothes, nothing new, just 3 new pairs, 3 new pieces of items of clothing every year, that's it. No dairy, no meat, no private car, no visiting the grandparents when they're sick, because that's one flight, one short haul flight every 3 years per person, that's it. This is what they want for you. It's of secondary importance how they intend to actually execute this and bring this about, but that's what they envision for you. And every time they say the word climate change, every time they say the word climate crisis, they are trying to use that to put fear in your mind to convince you that this way of life, this destitution that they want for us, is the answer. It's terrifying. We have time for one more random thing from the internet. This is quite funny. This is a skit about looters in the state of California. Take a look.
Okay, everybody, great work today. Way to step it up. Greg, excellent job with the Gucci bag, but remember, we got to keep it under $950, okay? California doesn't care if we steal anything less than $950. But if we go over that, the police might call our parents. Yeah, maybe even give us a timeout.
No way.
Yeah, not on my watch. Susie, I know you're new here, but you stole Crocs for some reason. Maybe step it up, yeah? Yes, sir, you in the back.
We're running out of places to steal stuff. Can we move to a different state?
Yeah, we're not doing that, okay? Every other state is, okay, not California, okay? That's why we do what we do, where we do it, okay? I'll leave you with this, guys. Remember to keep it thrifty and nifty, all while under
$9.50.
You guys are getting it. All right, everybody hands in. Okay, we are pieces of on 3. 1, 2.
This is hilarious, except it's also accurate. Like, he could actually be giving this workshop in California and the police wouldn't stop him from stealing anything under $950 worth. So funny. I do like when people use comedy to bring attention to political issues, because you see that and you know that it's absurd. Even if you're a Democrat, you know that is wrong. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.